Washington, D.C. is old. No, I did not say cold. I said old, like really very old. Like the average age of our current Senate is 64 years old. Old, as my dear children like to remind me, I am ancient, and yet still I am 10 years younger than the average age of our Senate. Make it make sense. The Constitution states that one must be at least 35 to be president, 30 to be a senator, and 25 to be a representative. But save for a handful of people in Congress, our politicians are very far removed from those numbers. And sure, okay, Maxwell Frost might be the first member of Gen Z to be in Congress, but there are so many boomers there who need help setting up their two-step verification that he can't possibly do it all on his own. He needs backup. And moreover, he probably needs people to eat lunch with. Elect him some friends. But you know what? Today, for a change, I have some good choice words. I give my nicest, choiciest words to young people all over the country who choose to run for office. They're running for school boards, city councils, for local state houses, to Congress, and someday, I hope, even for president. And they inspire me. They've grown up in a social media age where information is readily available and it's easier to find people who agree with you and support you. They were in grade school during Sandy Hook and college for Parkland, and they've seen generations of other politicians fail them on gun control, among other things. They understand technology, and they see how much current politicians do not. They see failure after failure to enact legislation that could give us a fighting chance at saving our planet, while the rest of them hem and haw about 80-degree fall days. They're running to make real change because they know that if we don't, their generation and the generations after them will be the ones to suffer most as they try to inhabit surely an uninhabitable planet. Oh, why did my good choice words end up being so depressing? I'm just saying, there are great things to do with your life when you are in your 60s and 70s. Life can be full. Vitality abounds. I don't plan to be making decisions for other people at that age. I don't know. Some are great. Others are a little behind. Please, have mercy on us. This is Choice Words. I'm Samantha Bee. I am honored to be joined today by Congressman Ro Khanna, who himself was once a young person running for Congress. He ran for and lost his first congressional race at the ripe young age of 27. We talked about the serious decisions that our politicians make every day, the way they are felt around the world, which is why it's more important than ever for those politicians to be representative of every generation of Americans. So take a listen, make good choices, and register to vote. Okay, Congressman Khanna, I know you're not busy at all. I know you just have like nothing going on in your life, and things are not things are not at all dumpster fires out in the world. So thank you so much for talking to me today. Okay, I have been talking to people a lot recently about the idea of choice, the choices they make in their life. That's how I like to launch into this podcast. So I have to ask you, it's very different for everyone. Professionally, you make choices that affect hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people. What is that? What does that responsibility feel like?
Yeah, sometimes you don't think about it, but other times you do.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking a lot about it right now with the Middle East,
right.
with every word that a member of Congress says has some influence in the outcome there, and literally is a matter of life and death
Life and
for
death.
Israelis, for Palestinians. And it gives a person humility in a
Right.
sense of, and not just me, I think most members of Congress, just a sense of the burden of being in positions where what you say is really impacting human lives. And sometimes someone said to me, when America sneezes, millions of people's lives are impacted. And it's
Right.
not just America, it's that what we do has such profound consequences around the world. So it for me, it's just it's a reminder that yeah, there's the thrill of politics, there are the things you're passionate about, but
Mhm.
ultimately these jobs are real responsibilities and burdens.
Right, right. So how does it I guess how does it feel in your body right now? I mean, are you sleep can you sleep? Are you how much do you immerse yourself in the discourse, I guess? I mean, I assume you're listening to people, you're listening to your constituents. Are you movable? Do you find that when you make a decision about something that you're steadfast in it? Or can you be like, do you ever feel like you made the wrong choice about something and that you will are you willing to change your mind about things?
Sure, absolutely. I know it's
Mhm,
fashionable in politics these days to say you never make a mistake and just always think you're right, but that's not human. Yes, I've made mistakes and decisions that I wish I had done something differently. There's certain things not movable on, right? I mean, I was on the board of Planned Parenthood. I'm 100% for reproductive choice. You could
mhm,
have thousands of activists come in and talk to me. It's not going to change my mind.
right.
I believe we need to build more steel plants in Ohio and Pennsylvania. You're not going to change my mind on that.
Mhm,
But on an issue like this, yes, if in fact, if you look at my tweets and statements, they have become louder and louder about the humanitarian situation with Palestinians in Gaza because of things that I've been hearing, because of constituents. They've become stronger on speaking out against both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism because of community input. So on issues like this, absolutely, and it's one of the things that I do want to say to folks who think, it doesn't matter if you write a letter to a member of Congress, doesn't matter if you call a member of Congress. And here's the candid truth: the more effort you put in, the more it matters. If you just kind of say, okay, I'm going to do an email to a member of Congress, yeah, you'll get counted. Probably won't
mhm.
make a huge difference. But if you take the time to go to the office and meet or protest, or of course it matters, and particularly in fluid situations. So yes,
Right.
in my opinion, it should.
I do think that people don't understand that, showing up in person obviously is incredibly important, but letter writing is actually kind of a big deal.
It is. It is. It's a big deal in writing letters to the editor, because
Mhm.
if you write a letter to the editor into my local paper, that's going to make it into my to my script. If in press clips, if you
Right.
write to my office, that is going to make it in. So absolutely, it's a big deal.
Are you different when you make decisions? When you make decisions about important things, do you is your process, what does your process look like? And is it different for you in your capacity as a civilian? Like, as just a regular human being outside of the job that you do, is your process different? Does it come easily to you? Do you
I try to defer
agonize?
as much outside to my wife because I know she's the
You
better
do?
decision maker. So,
Mm, that's wise.
on that, I try to anything that important to her. But and I try to minimize decision making. A lot of people say this, that I'll try to wear similar suits and similar ties and not make a ton of decisions about those type of things.
Mhm,
In being in Congress, I want to get every fact, and I
right,
want to find every law. And in some cases, if I was going to be self-reflective and critical, it's that I may be too analytical, almost looking for this analytical answer, where some of these things are not analytical. Some of it is values based, some of it is emotion based. But my default is, give me the information, give me the data, give me
right.
the facts, and that helps me. But it almost is creating a false sense of certainty. These are ultimately deeply humanistic, values based decisions.
Right, and how do you I mean, how do these decisions sit in your heart? I mean, it must be I can't the I find it's unbearable as a human being to watch what we are witnessing, and you have to do a job that requires that you you're actually your job is to make decisions and guide the government and guide your constituents. How do you compartmentalize that, I guess, in your human heart?
Well, sometimes it can be exhilarating and empowering when you're
Mhm.
passing legislation that you think is going to make a difference. My
Right.
CHIPS Act that I helped write and bringing semiconductors to America, that was
Right.
great. After years of work, there's something that you're getting done. And other times, there's feeling of some guilt, some
Mhm.
uh, feeling of concern of what are my kids one day going to think about
Right.
how I did.
Does
Uh,
that impact your decision making? You kind of look to the future and go, "Okay, how's this going to resonate historically?"
Yeah, I mean, not in some grand sense, of history. I mean, maybe Obama were to think like that as the first
Right.
African American president. For me, it's a little bit more mundane, but more like what would my kids think? What would my family think when if my grandkids one day, if I were lucky enough to have grandkids, were to be like, oh, my grandfather was in Congress. Was he one of the good guys? Was he on the right side?
Right.
Where would they think I'd fall short? And our role in the Middle East right now, we're inextricably tied to what's happening. We can't just say, "Oh, that's something
No.
distant." I mean, we're involved. So what I say, it doesn't matter as much as what the president or secretary of state says, but it matters. And I can't absolve myself saying, "Oh, I'm just expressing an opinion." It's actually that there is some real consequences taking place. And so I do feel, do I have it right? Am I doing the correct thing? Questioning myself on it. I found
Right.
myself in this context, in this conflict over the last 3 weeks, wrestling with that and wrestling with issues of conscience and wondering whether I've done enough and
Right.
wondering if I have some guilt, probably more than in my 7 years in Congress. So it's an interesting time to be doing this podcast because I haven't felt that quite weight of it as much on other things.
Right. There is the weight is tremendous, and it does feel like the world is, to some extent, imploding. It feels definitely to me like we've really uncorked something that feels different. And I wonder how you make people believe that progress is possible with that as the backdrop. I guess, how do you keep energy moving forward when everything can feel so dire?
I look to history in a very personal sense. I mean, my grandfather, Amarnath Vidyalankar, spent 6 years in jail alongside Gandhi in India's independence movement and spent 15 years fighting for India's independence, not knowing whether India would ever be a free country. And I look at his life and I say that is so much more challenging than anything I would ever face. And he lived to see a free India. And I then think of my parents who came here as immigrants, and they couldn't get a meeting with a staff member to a member of Congress. I remember when we would have some event or something and wanted to invite my relative, how hard it was for them to even get the attention of a member of Congress. And now their son is a member of Congress, and we have
Right.
5 South Asians in Congress. And so I think this country is progressing in becoming this cohesive, multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy. And as we do that, we're going to play a more empathetic and just role in the world. But progress is slow and progress is hard. But that narrative of the sacrifices of the past give me a sense of wanting to continue and understanding that things take time.
Right. Want to listen to the rest of this episode? Head over to your favorite podcast player to hear the entire show. I highly recommend it.